Hi, welcome to the Soul Series. This is segment one of a six-part series on healing the soul. This is about your soul having a physical experience on the earth plane and about the experience of having to deal with certain unhealthy experiences on this physical existence and how we cope with it and how we can heal those burdens of the soul that bring us down and lower our frequency. So let's start this series off by talking about what is the soul. The soul comes from the Greek word psyche, which means mind. So the soul is like a mind consciousness. It also means animating entity because it is a consciousness that is very much alive and animated, and it lives within the physical body. It is also a spirit because it's consciousness that comes from spirit, and it gives spiritual dimension, spiritual essence to the physical body, to the physical existence. Now, what would be trauma? Trauma is anything the soul was unable to cope with, any experience, an experience that involved high intensity emotions, charged emotions that were of a lower vibrational energy, usually a survival consciousness. And what happens is, because it is an emotion, a charged emotion, it has a charge to it, it's a very active energy. But if the soul can't process it, this energy becomes trapped in the soul because the soul is energy, emotions are energy. So it's a pocket of energy of a lower vibration that gets trapped into the soul, which means the soul begins to feel a sense of heaviness. This is a soul burden. So, past life trauma is a soul trauma in another lifetime of the soul, meaning the soul had another experience in another lifetime in another body. So, here's an example. Your soul, not in this lifetime, but lived in another lifetime, in another body, in a whole other lifetime experience. And speaking of linear time, if we're talking past life in linear time, we can go back to some pretty violent and intense experiences for the soul. In past centuries, the soul had to process traumas like famines, slavery, wars, lots of wars, incurable diseases, hangings, beheadings, famines, and poverty all over, the Great Depression. So this is very common for the soul to experience these things, and maybe sometimes over and over. So, for example, suppose your soul had a lifetime as a slave. And as a slave, you felt in your soul energy that as long as you work hard, you get to stay alive. You get to be valuable to your master. You're needed. You're useful. But as you start to age in that lifetime, you begin to develop intense emotions. The fear of no longer being valuable because you're not as useful to your master because you're getting old, you're getting weaker, you can't do the hard labor you used to do. So you start developing a fear that if I become useless because I get old, my master is going to get rid of me, either by selling me off for whatever my master can get, or just leaving me homeless somewhere because my master is no longer going to feed me if I can't produce. Or maybe just even kill me off if I'm that useless, not even worth selling. So these high intensity emotions okay, get locked into the soul. Now they become a soul imprint. And in that imprint, okay, is all of the emotions attached to that imprint. In those emotions, also associated with that, are the feelings and the beliefs. So suppose in that lifetime, you carry now this deep-seated belief that once you get old, you become useless and you could be annihilated, killed off. I know it sounds very bizarre, but these are the kind of things that the soul imagines when it's in a human body, because it forgets that it doesn't die. Because the soul is just energy, and energy doesn't die, it can only transform. But in the existence of the physical world, the soul is trapped in a body, so the body begins to react to the fear of non-existence, not realizing that the soul is really the true essence, not the physical body, and the soul doesn't die. So in that lifetime, as a slave, the body expires. That life is over. That life, that physical body took its last breath. The soul now leaves the body and it crosses over into the spirit world. Now, in the spirit world, some healing can be done. There's cleansing of the soul, there's learning of the lessons. But when the lessons can't truly be learned, when there's really not a full release of that energy, because there's still stuff to understand, the soul will hold on to it. And then the soul will come into another lifetime. So suppose this same soul goes to another lifetime and it's carrying this soul burden and this belief behind it that if I grow old, I become useless, I could die. Now, this soul burden is in another lifetime. And what's going to happen is whatever entrapped in the soul, in this energetic field that the soul is, this animating entity, it's going to continue to play out now in the physical reality. So now it's a different lifetime, it's a different body, but it's still the same soul consciousness. So now suppose in this lifetime, this person that's housing the soul is a woman, and she finds herself attracted to a man who's very demanding, very controlling, and treats her like property. That's because her consciousness is playing out the reality of feeling owned and like property. But her belief behind that is, I have to please him. I have to be young and beautiful to sexually please him, for him to be attracted to me so he doesn't get rid of me, because my survival depends on this man. So now the woman starts to get older and she starts to panic and believe she's going to become useless and will no longer be needed, which means she doesn't know what's going to happen to her, which means she's back living in that intense survival consciousness that began in another lifetime. So now that lifetime's over and the body takes its last breath. The soul moves on into the spirit world, and it's got a lot of trauma. Now, this burden and all of this trauma, the slavery and the woman that's still playing out that whole entrapped energy of feeling like property and owned, and I cannot get older, I got to stay useful or I die. That's on one thread of consciousness. That's all attached to that one heavy burden. Souls have many different burdens. So there could be another burden that the soul is working on where there's maybe fear of abandonment. And that's on another thread of consciousness. And that can go back several different lifetimes. So right now, I'm going to be talking about this thread of consciousness. So suppose now this soul comes into another lifetime. Say it's the current lifetime, right? Now you're in your current lifetime and you want to heal this. So what you're dealing with now in this current lifetime is you are an employee. And as you get older and you see that your employer starts hiring younger and younger people, you start to panic. Because what's happening is this soul burden, this lower energy, which is now entrapped in your soul, is playing out in your reality. The fear of being useless, of no longer being valuable, of growing old and not being able to perform like you used to, which still goes back to the fear of dying, because it goes back to the slavery. So now you're carrying a survival consciousness with you. This is the trauma that was never released by the soul. So now you want to heal this. So let's talk about how would you heal that in your current lifetime? Well, you have choices. The first choice I would say would be you can go to a past life practitioner, somebody who can take you on a spiritual journey to locate the source of what you're dealing with now. So suppose you go to someone, you say, I feel like this could come from past life. I seem to have this deep fear that as I get older, that I'm no longer needed at my job. And yet there's other people there that are older. I don't know why I have this intense fear. So the practitioner takes you on a journey and you end up going back to being a slave. And you end up going back to another lifetime of the woman who was with a man that treated her like property. And this is where you start to put the puzzle together and realize this is just burdens from the past and that they're still playing out in your lifetime now. So what the practitioner will help you do is do the healing on that thread of consciousness, that burden. You don't have to actually heal every single lifetime that's on that thread. What you have to heal is the burden. The energetic field that's locked into your soul has got to be healed, because once you heal the burden, once you come to the realization that you are not property, you are never useless, no matter what your age, you're still a beautiful, free, sovereign being and no one can own you. As a matter of fact, getting older is what? It's a sign of wisdom and intelligence and experience. So it's about you loving and honoring who you are as a soul, right? In a human body, having a physical experience. Once you do the healing work, what happens is it's going to not only release that burden from you, it's releasing the heaviness from the burden, which lightens your soul, which raises your frequency, which raises your vibration. So you get to live in more of an enlightened state as a soul here, having a physical experience. That practitioner will help you through the healing process. You can also do a past life regression on your own. You could purchase one, you could download one on YouTube, you can do it through meditation. The only problem with that is, well, there's a couple of problems with it. One would be that you do get stuck because you don't have anybody to walk you through it or help you through the healing process. But I really don't highly recommend you doing it on your own for one reason, and that is only because it could get intense. And not that anything really severe would happen to you, but it's not really a good idea to be all by yourself when you're dealing with such intense emotional trauma. Because if something comes up and you are triggered, you could have a very severe reaction to that trigger and have to experience some really deep trauma without anybody to help you through it. But most of the time, people that do them on their own really never reach that point. They only get flashes, not the full blown out trauma. But my suggestion is either you go for the past life where somebody could walk you through it on a full, deep inner journey. You have the experience yourself and they walk you through it and they do the healing work with you. Or if you don't want to go through the journey and have the experience, you could also go to what's called a past life regression reader, and they read your past life to you. They read your soul energy. They read your Akashic records, which are the records of the soul. And what they do is they tell you about your experiences from other lifetimes. And then they help you connect how that's showing up in your lifetime now and help you through that healing process. So the whole idea is to get through the healing process, because remember, a soul trauma, okay? A trauma is an experience of the soul that the soul couldn't cope with. So it became an imprint on the soul. Once it's healed, once you have that understanding and you come to a different belief, okay, not the belief I will die because I got older and I'm useless, but the belief that as I get older, I get better and I am a soul and I am a sovereign being. I'm a free being. No one can own me. As I get older, I become more wise and more valuable to the world, okay, because you have a lot to share. But regardless, I'm still a beautiful, innocent soul, right? And I don't have to worry about anybody creating feelings of uselessness in me. I create it myself. You have to come to that realization that that belief was created by you because of your experience. And then once you're able to understand that and you're able to release that and let it go, it means you've now processed that burden. So the burden leaves the soul, you become lighter, and you raise your vibration. So those are the different ways that you could do the healing work. And then what happens is because you're doing the healing work, your life changes, everything changes because the consciousness of who you are is in a higher vibration, which means your reality is going to show up in a higher vibration, which means more positive things. You're not going to be stuck in that drama, okay, that keeps playing out from lifetime after lifetime because you held on to this belief, which became a trauma trapped in your soul. So that's how we're going to wrap up this series, and I hope this was helpful for you. And if you did like this series, if you like this first part, please go ahead and hit that like button for me, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you can get more on this. And if you want a notification of when there's going to be more videos posted, you could just click on that bell. So please share it with your friends and your family and anybody you think can benefit from it. And the next segment, which would be segment 2 of the 6-part series, we're going to be talking about early childhood trauma. So again, we're really bringing in the energy of the soul, not only what gets carried over from another lifetime, but what gets experienced here in this lifetime and how collectively it plays out in adulthood or in your teenage years and continues to cause more drama in your life. So through this series, we're going to be talking about how these things show up, how they play out in the physical existence, but also how we can heal it and come back to the beautiful innocent souls that we are, to remember how perfect we are as souls. And I'm going to leave you with this. Every lifetime is an opportunity to heal your soul burdens and to live like the miracle you are, because that's what we are. We're miracles. We're beautiful beings of light from this beautiful spirit above that have just come here to have an experience. And all we want to do in this lifetime and other lifetimes, should we come back, is to remember who we are as a soul being so that we can live in that higher vibrational energy. So signing off, sending you many blessings, lots of love, and please come back to the channel and watch segment 2 of the 6-part series and enjoy and share and hit that like button. Thank you so much. Many blessings.